Hi guys, welcome to this episode of Monday's Tsene with Pretoria Psychologists. My name is Mazeka, and today I'm speaking on the fear of failure. So by fear of failure, I'm mainly referring to a pattern whereby, let's say for example, you want to pursue maybe a specific relationship, or maybe you want to pursue maybe a business idea or opportunity, or specific target or specific goal that you have set out for yourself, right? And but for one reason or another, and just due to a number of factors that maybe relate to what we perceive our chances of success to be, or how we believe or how we feel about ourselves, we end up either abandoning or postponing, terminating, right? And ultimately over time this leaves us not having achieved that desired outcome. And this may also leave us feeling low about ourselves, doubting ourselves and our abilities, blaming ourselves, feeling guilty, and ultimately, this can be almost like it can be like a pattern, right? And this pattern ultimately may result in a very low quality of life, right? When one looks at this pattern though of maybe just the fear of failure, right, one realizes that in a lot of cases, a lot of situations, the fear is not related so much so to the failure itself, but it's related to maybe just how we interpret the failure, what it will mean, what it will do, and how it will make us feel, for example, right? And so one finds that at the root of this fear of failure, it's not a fear of failure per se, right? It's just it's a fear of how we perceive the failure will result, or what will occur, what will happen essentially, right? So in order for us maybe just to better understand and to confront this issue, we do need to look at just what cognitive therapies say about our beliefs, because according to cognitive therapies, we all possess these deep-rooted beliefs, right, about ourselves and other people and the world in general. And normally these are called schemas, right? And so these deep-rooted beliefs are formed, during early childhood, adolescence, and so those experiences that we encounter, we experience, and also those needs of childhood, that are met and not met. Excuse me. Those experiences, they communicate to us, and they tell us essentially, what or how to feel, what to believe about ourselves, and they influence what we see, how we see ourselves and the world, and and you find that particularly those needs that are not met, right? So our needs for connection, acceptance, nurturance, safety, maturing autonomy, being able to play spontaneously, to explore our environments, learning how to control or limits, adequate limits, when those needs, so those needs that are not met, those are often the needs that distort our perception of ourselves. So let me give an example. A lot of us, who grow up or who are from previously disadvantaged like communities, a lot of us essentially grew up, attending schools, in different towns, different cities, different provinces, right? Where from early childhood, growing up away from home. So you might find that in those situations, for example, one's needs for connection, acceptance, may have been compromised, but maybe our need for autonomy and maybe maturing performance, right, that one was high. So you might find that later on in life, you grow up, you are this person who's maybe a well-rounded off person, very successful, but you find that when it comes to relationships, right, you struggle with relationships, and part of your struggle with relationships is not so much the struggle is not so much the relationship in its whole. So let's say, for example, you meet someone and you like this person, and they like you, and you're matching on star signs, they are match, the interests, all of these things, and fine, maybe you start seeing each other, and then this person wakes up one day and they tell you, oh, how in love they are with you, and how much they appreciate you in your life, and how happy you make them feel, and then for you, because of your own experiences or because of your earlier experiences, in this situation where you have to talk about your feelings and expressing yourselves, maybe when you were young, or maybe during high school, I don't know, maybe your crush rejected you then, and you just said, you know what, yeah, Mujolo is not for me, okay? Or you see, so experiences like that we carry from us or from early childhood, you find that in this particular example, they become triggered, right? And because of those experiences, because of those beliefs about myself in this particular situation, or in this particular circumstance, expressing myself emotionally, being vulnerable, I find that because I'm not sure how to relate or how to proceed, I instead just choose an escape, or I choose maybe an option that I think is safer, or an option that is much more relatable, to myself, to my own experiences. And then ultimately I end up, abandoning the relationship, and I end up maybe breaking this person's heart, which ultimately or eventually makes me feel bad, even more worse than how I feel about myself, and then next thing I've told myself that, what, nah, Mujolo is not for me, okay? And then it becomes a pattern. Meet next person again, same thing, and so over time, this becomes very distressing, right? And when we look at just what you've been through and what has been happening, and we realize that this sentence or this belief that Mujolo is not for me, it's common in all of these relationships, right? And when we explore this belief further, what is this belief? What is it saying? When you're saying Mujolo is not for me, in a way, you're also saying that, connection, acceptance, nurturance, vulnerability, these things, yeah, I don't want them, or I don't know, something like I don't know what to do with them, and so it's a no, right? And so when one looks at this fear of failure, and these patterns that are just as a result, of these beliefs, one finds that often it's not the task, that is the problem, but it's our own beliefs, our own perceptions of ourselves, about the next person, about the world, and our perceptions of success, our perceptions, ultimately, essentially, how it's how we perceive rather than the actual action itself and the actual performance itself, that results in us terminating or, just rejecting and procrastinating, postponing, putting off, these desired relationships and these desired goals, right? And so with confronting this fear of failure, one of the first steps, one of the first starting points will be just to identify, to recognize, our thoughts about ourselves, how we feel, what we think of ourselves, other people, the world in general. And also when it comes to maybe pursuing that relationship, that opportunity, is to shift our focus from ourselves to not focusing so much on ourselves, and focusing more on the task at hand, the task that needs to be completed, the steps that lead to ultimately completing the task, right? And yeah, with that said, I'd like to wish you all the best. You need that relationship, or you want that relationship, you want that connection, you want that opportunity. Don't limit yourself, and yeah, I wish you all the best. Okay, then, bye.